Starting a little late here, but I think we should be fine. We've got Red Reddy. Rocket Red.
How's it going, man? How's it going? Good to be
Did you ever watch the South Park episode where they're like Red Rocket?
I'm ashamed to say I haven't watched that much South Park.
So Red Rocket is like when they're basically they're playing a game called Red Rocket with the dog.
Yeah.
And they're like Red Rocket, and Red Rocket's like they're basically jacking the dog off.
Oh fuck.
So that's your namesake. Jokes.
That's legacy. I gotta live up to that.
You have to live up to that. So how's it going, man?
It's been a long day, man, but I was looking forward to this. Just because, dude, I feel like I don't do enough spontaneity, and this sounded great. It sounded cool.
Yeah. No, it's cool. We started doing it. I don't think you've met Carlo yet, have you? So
No,
Carlo
I don't think so.
co-hosts this. We shot 2 of them together, and he's in Vancouver until next month, until next week, because I can't believe we're already in October. It's insane. So Carlo typically would do some guest podcast stuff with us, but he's not here right now. So I've just been taking over duties myself and just producing the shit out of this thing.
Nice.
I'm glad you were able to make it out. Take some time out of your day. I know you're a very, very busy man.
Trying to be less busy, but
Yeah. So what's going on with you? What's going on in your life?
What am I doing? So I've got a main job, and the main job's been busy, but outside of that, I'm doing the final touches of post-production, a lot of sound design stuff right now for this short that I've been, as you very well know, I've been working on for over a year now, and starting to write and tinker with some new ideas.
I'll give a little bit of a background here. I took a screenwriting class with Red, and that's how we met each other. And he was working on a short film at the time, and I was working on also a short, but I was using the class more as just like exercise, and he was using it for his actual project. So, but we became fast friends when we realized we lived in the same neighborhood. Why don't you maybe talk about your short, what it's about, what it's called, and your vision, everything.
Yeah, and it's crazy. It feels so long ago that we took that class
It was like December 2023, 2022.
Yeah, it's crazy. And those are the origins. And thankfully, I think it's a lot better of a draft than it was in that class. But this short's about a South Asian Indian American kid coming of age story, all set in one day of senior year of high school. And he's like trying to make a name for himself. He feels like, this time of this age is fleeting, and that he's not going to have another chance. And back then, those moments meant so much, and it's really about a lens into that, like with a background of hip hop and Razor flip phones and all those things that were kind of trendy back then. But ultimately, at the end of it, it's about a kid making potentially the wrong decision versus like his family and against his friends, and kind of the ramifications of him processing that, and hopefully learning a tiny bit about his identity along the way.
Did you feature a Razor flip phone?
We did. We had I think it was a gray one.
Did it work? Like, were you able to make calls, or was it just a prop?
Honestly, I really wanted it to work, and we were trying to make it work, but the sim or something blew up, so we're gonna have to VFX that.
Yeah, man, Razor flip phones. That's a good call. What were some of like the musical artists that you featured or you plan to feature, and what's kind of some of the inspirations?
Yeah, and I'm playing around with like what we can and can't do. I might just like do what we can, just say YOLO, just because I think it is so important to have the right sound in there. And a lot of rap, like back then Lil Wayne was so big. There's guys like Jeezy, T.I., like all these rappers that were pretty big back then. And then there's almost like this subsect of like skater, like indie hip hop culture, and like it was almost like who like most under the radar did you know? And so I wanted to feature a few folks like that, like Nujabes,
Yeah, dude. Fuck, I haven't
RP,
heard
like
that.
folks like that.
That's a good one. Was it Nujabes or Nujabes? How did you pronounce it?
Honestly, I used to say Nujabes, or like however you say it. And then like I think someone corrected me recently, and I think it's Nujabes. But who knows? Who knows?
Interesting, because it's that's a deep.
I wanted to have one or two like that, and Didi actually inspired me on that, because it was the movie, the Sean Wang movie with the Asian American kid.
Oh right. Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah,
and that kid was a skater, so it was very much like that kind of sound ish. So that kind of like, like what is that layer underneath?
Yeah. So where are you right now in the production timeline process? Like what's the fucking holdup?
I know everyone's asking this. I guess that's the downside of crowdfunding too. It's like everyone wants to know what's going on. Honestly, I'm realizing that like, one, this would have been done so much faster if I wasn't working like a non-film job. Like, and it just, fortunately it pays the bills. So it's very easy to be like, you know what, I'll just do this next week, because there's no like immediate deadline on the film. So I think that slowed it down. And then of course, I think there's a whole thing about like how to like switch lenses from doing something that's not creative versus creative. Like I'd love for it to just be like a pocket in the evening where it's like, okay, let's just flip into the creative. I think that's harder, even more so with writing. But so it's all that to say, I'm hoping we're like a month and a half out.
Okay, like from what, like a final version, or like a
close-ish to that, yeah.
Close-ish. Okay, so like a month and a half out to like being able to at least submit it to a film
That's
festival.
That's the goal.
So you want to have a product within a month to a month and a half that is, you can screen it.
Yeah, month sounds scary, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it.
Ultimately, you just have to get it out at some point, right? I think there's also that fear of like, shit, I've just spent a year on this, and someone just watches it and is like, this is shit. But like,
I mean, that's the thing. I think, I tend to feel that way about, like, I mean, everybody probably feels this way. Like acting, I always have this thought that like, okay, I'm going to look stupid when I get up there, right? Whereas when it's writing, or when it's like your project, it's not like, am I going to look stupid? Are people going to think I'm stupid? And it's, I think that I think cuts a bit deeper. When you're an actor, you don't really have that level of control. I mean, but when you're writer, or when you're producer, director, and it's your like intellectual project, that's pretty brutal, because that's your entire, I guess, skill set as a creative.
Yeah, and I will say that being said, I think the through line between that and acting is you have to be able to look at it like, no matter what, like this isn't the last thing, and I'm only gonna get better, right? And I think that keeps it as like a lesson, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, just staying iterative and just making sure that you keep growing. But it's still nerve-wracking though, because you just don't know. And I think the goal is to so everybody will
to do it for real.
Yeah. To get your shit out there. And well, at least for me, my thing is like, I want everybody to think I'm brilliant.
I mean, I think we all do, like down there somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's definitely. So, okay, talk about a little bit this balance, right? Which is such in this generation, especially like, if you're in we're in that weird age group where like, we haven't really had any like substance in our careers yet. And like only rare, the tiniest percentage of people have had that like career defining shit so far. But if you are there, you have to balance having a full time, and you live in New York City and you want to live comfortably. You have to balance, and you touched on this a little bit, balancing, not really having enough time, and even coming here, you had some meetings and things like that. So can you kind of chat about the challenges you've faced around that?
Yeah, and I honestly think it's one of those things that I like. I feel like every year I shift a little bit in how I'm thinking about it, you know. And yeah, I mean, there's like I remember doing a reshoot one morning, like on a weekday, just because it was the only day everyone can get together, like 9 to 11, and I kind of like strategically blocked out my calendar, and then I had to run back right after that and just do like half day of work at this company. Like it's like no one was the wiser, and I mean there's something nostalgic maybe about like that quote unquote hustling part of it. Like eventually, like it sucks sometimes during the combining the two, but I think the bigger piece for me is weighing the pros of making the money to maybe live a certain lifestyle or things that you may think you like or like need or want or whatever that is. And maybe that's also competing with the Joneses and all that stuff versus the opportunity cost that you're losing out on by not doing it full time, right? Like I was just talking about like Sean Wang or any of these guys that are similar ages to us, but there is that piece of, like if I was doing this full time, could I pump out like 2-3 things? Could I, that ever like and never ending list of books on film that I want to read or like all that stuff that ideally is what I want to do, right? And to become a master of that, there is that level of commitment.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, I think there's also that piece for me of like, well, now we're in this weird age. Like, yeah, if you're 23, it's like, yeah, let me just go like, just hustle it. But I think it's almost harder when you've kind of been doing it like that this way for so long. It feels almost scarier to damn, I'm
jump in.
Yeah, I'm gonna let all this go and just almost start back to basics while people around you that are your age maybe are starting families, buying houses, like et cetera, right?
Yeah. I mean, although I will say like I can probably guess that there are so many creatives right now that are our age that are having to find that balance between, working my software engineering job. And I mean, I've seen it on YouTube where this Olympic swimmer is talking about how he's like in the time trials for Olympics. And then when he's done at night, he goes and does his coding job.
It's intense.
And it's like, I guess we live in a new world where
that's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. And like, you don't have to be a waiter. You can have both, but it also comes with the territory of, am I just fooling myself? Am I just, am I just touching the surface of the pond?
Is this a hobby?
Is this a hobby? And I think hobbyfication is something that like, you can think that you're in the game, but you're really not in the game. And I feel that all the time. Like that's what I've been feeling a lot lately, which has been like, all right, like, yeah, I mean, I'm, making money and all that kind of stuff. It's nice. It's a good feeling, you're living comfortably, but it's also like, man, I'm not like.
Yeah, and this is a recent shift for you, so it's fresh on your mind of like, so that's also very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, last I started my like full-time job in February. And so, I've been taking a little bit of a step back on like doing those like independent short films and things like that. That I just don't like feel are moving the needle for me like right now at this moment, and just trying to make money, honestly, which is like, but then I'll get that feeling in the back of my head where I'll be like, man, I'm not on a set. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing the thing. Am I joking? Am I waking up every day and like, has it become just an identity that I have? Like, am I not,
Yeah.
is it an
You're just
identity?
the cool guy that does that on the,
Yeah. He does it on the side. He enjoys it, but
do you feel like the knife blade is dulled a little in terms of like, because like you said, are you like, there's one thing when you're like making a short film however often versus, maybe now it's like once every month or two, or when you can seek it out.
No, I mean, what I was doing a lot was, I think like probably up to like 2 years ago, or maybe even last year a little bit, was like I was going out and trying to seek auditions and that stuff. And then I kind of got to a point where it was like, all right, you're not really going to ever you don't know the people that can like level you up, and all you're gonna get is, you know, an indie that's kind of interesting here or there, and like I've never been like a big theater actor type, you know, and I did a lot of theater stuff like before the pandemic, but like that wasn't really like for me. But yeah, I just kind of realized I was like, okay, like, you know, what's the time difference between doing these like shorts that I like don't really have a passion for, and I'm just trying to get like, you know, I'm trying to get actor footage, you know, that stuff, versus like being a little bit more trying to just look out into the future a little bit more, and just kind of putting my efforts into things that I think are going to be more valuable for the future. But I mean, I talked about this on the last podcast I had with John.
Nice.
Yeah, you met, John.
I think so.
John Toon, Paparazzi Boys. Yeah, and we were kind of having that conversation, and I was like, well, I'm taking like acting, I'm still doing auditioning classes and things like that.
You have to.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to pivot from there to, can you talk about like, you know, you joined South Asian, the Filmmakers Rise. What was it called?
What was the Rickshaw Film, I think is the name of it.
Yeah, I applied with one of my movies.
This last round.
Yeah, the last round I didn't get it.
I didn't apply this round.
You did 2023.
The one right before this, yeah.
So what was that like? What was that whole thing about?
Yeah, this is interesting. So I apply. So they have a track for writers, and they have a track for like production. Essentially, you have a producer lined up, and you're basically near production, and they'll help you like end to end of all of that. And so I applied to both. I mainly actually applied for the production one because we were like right about to start production on this short film that we were just talking about, and I thought it'd be cool to get some insight.
What's your short called again? Sorry.
It's called Skin Deep. It's just called Skin Deep. Yeah. Yeah, so I was mainly doing it for that, and it's like, you know, first time making something in a while, it'd be cool to get some new, like some proper support and blah, blah, blah. And I actually didn't get into that one. I got into the writers one.
Okay.
And I forget what I submitted to that. I had a story, but I was trying to think if I had to submit any Skin Deep stuff. But anyways, with that, it was kind of like a pleasant surprise, and I think the piece that was cool was when it became the writer piece instead of the production piece. It was like, you know what, this will actually just help me springboard my first draft for whatever I make after this, right? So I kind of saw it as that way, and so in that sense, it was beneficial. It's like I think it's like 8 or 10 week thing. You meet weekly, and you kind of share where your story's at, and I was kind of like divided attention because I was also filming Skin Deep, but it was useful. It was useful. And it was cool because like I've never been in a writing thing where it's all Indians, right? Like I think the reason me and you gravitated towards each other in that class was because we were the only 2 Indians in there.
And lived in Williamsburg.
Yeah, and that too.
Okay, well, okay, so, all right. So shooting Skin Deep itself, can you talk a little bit about like where it takes place, like where you shot, just I guess like the principal photography, all those details, like what did you do?
Yeah, like the prep going into it, or more the actual shooting?
Both, you know?
Yeah. So the prep, we needed a couple specific locations. In my head, when I was writing it, I thought they would be easy to find, but they're always way harder. We needed a school, we needed like a classroom, and then we needed a minivan, and then we needed like a playground. Those were the 3, like I'd say, key locations. We went and checked out a lot of schools in New York. We went and saw a ton of parks. The parks was actually probably the hardest part. And the minivan was pretty hard too, because we wanted it to be old enough to like fit a certain vibe. And yeah, I mean, it was going to all these different schools. And I think I had, in my mind, I wanted it to not feel like it was in the city. Like I wanted it to have a little bit more of a suburban vibe. So we kind of had to go a little bit deeper into Queens for some of that. And drive through specific neighborhoods that weren't like directly in anywhere near Manhattan. So a lot of Brooklyn, actually, a lot of Brooklyn and Queens. Yeah.
Where did you shoot? Like, where did you find? You said you had a classroom, right?
Yeah, yeah. We were going to a lot of schools, and like, I had a dope producer, and she like was reaching out to a couple schools, and the school piece was easier because we like the classroom. Once we have the classroom, we could kind of design it ourselves, but we just didn't want it to look too modern. And a lot of the Manhattan ones do have like, I don't know, cutting edge screens and like a lot more high tech stuff in there.
Right.
So we tried to find it out a place that was a little bit more beaten down.
And it's this is 2008, right?
Yeah.
It takes place which is a weird time. It's a weird time because I feel like we haven't really gotten there yet to being nostalgic about 2008 yet.
I think we're starting to though.
You think so?
I mean, Didi was like, again, it's not to
I
keep
still haven't
like bringing
seen
that
it.
up.
Yeah,
but like,
I need to watch that.
That was set in that era. And then I think some shorts are starting to, but I agree. It's not really like heavy in the feature world.
Yeah, because I mean, from what I see is like, obviously Stranger Things 80s.
Yeah.
I do see some stuff that's like popping out from the 90s kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess our cohort, whatever your cohort, the time period, so ours would be like, the aughts that they call it, the aughts.
It honestly feels like the least sexy time period to me. I don't know why. Maybe because we grew up in it. But
Maybe, Well, I mean, you think about like, so I just saw a guy just walk by here and he had like SpongeBob on his like jacket.
It's like
and
cool.
I think to myself, like, is SpongeBob gonna be like Generation Alpha's like mascot? It's some retro kind of thing. Like to think about SpongeBob SquarePants being retro is interesting. But so going back to the classroom, like I remember my classrooms around that time were all whiteboards, like none of the chalkboard stuff, which I think is such a trope of like, 80s and 90s kind of stuff. And so you got to have a whiteboard, you're going to have a computer, you're going to have all this stuff, but it's like it's just an interesting thing because it's not exactly rustic.
Yeah.
And it could easily be a modern classroom in a county that, doesn't have the funding in 2024.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's kind of like the early onset of like smaller digital items, right? Like the phones weren't smartphones yet, but they were like, iPods and little, it was kind of like that weird period before we went full smartphone, but also not like full desk, like PC at home, so it was a weird period.
Yeah. Yeah. Like not full MacBook level. I mean, we still had, I remember still having a, the desktop, like with the computer with the thick back, that kind of thing. Okay. So in terms of like balancing work hours as well as shooting, were you like, all right, like, okay, this is the weekend. Now I'm going to shoot this weekend specifically. I'm going to take PTO. Like how did you do that?
Yeah, initially I wanted to shoot 2 weekends like back to back, and then my producer immediately told me that doesn't make any sense, and you want to just go 4 days straight, and like saves equipment costs and all that stuff, and so for that like we used 1 weekend, and then I did take 2 days off. Trying to think, I might have even taken the day off before that because I think once like I knew it was like this is when we're doing it, like this is serious, like it's totally. I think so I work in tech. It's pretty chill to do that. I think it's more like pockets of, I think if you're doing it like, every other weekend, you're kind of running away like to an audition or something. Yeah. That's when, you kind of have to work it out with your team. But I think this is a transition I've made over the last like 6-7 years of like going from completely hiding film and what I do, like out, like away from the tech world and kind of just being like, okay, these are so separate, and then realizing, this is kind of a part of my identity, so I'm just gonna be very open with that in the workplace.
That's cool. How, in what way have you been more open?
Well, one, I think just like telling more people that that's like what I do on the side, and kind of trying to be a little bit more proudful of it. Yeah. And even when we were fundraising, I was like going to, around folks there, and thankfully they already knew about me doing this on the side. I do think like, not just at the company, but within my friend groups as well. I think it still is kind of going back to the hobbification piece. I think a lot of them do still see it that way until like, again, maybe it's because you're kind of doing both jobs or until it gets to a certain level, whatever it is, right?
I mean, I can even talk about that as well. Like, I mean, it's like, it's almost like a stigma kind
Yeah.
of vibe where like people are just, you know, when you're in it, when you're deep and you've seen what it looks like, because you've seen what it looks like, you've seen all that stuff, you've read those stories, you've watched those movies, you know, like Dee Dee, you're talking about that. And so you understand that, but on the other hand, you have to balance that with, you know, being one of the guys at the company.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to feel left out. So sometimes you kind of have to mask your,
Right.
you know, mask your inner kind of weirdness. And I kind of do feel like that's kind of like more than being Indian American. I think we've drawn more towards each other because we both work in the tech kind of world adjacent. I wouldn't say I'm a tech person, more so marketing, but like you work in that tech environment, but then also you're trying to build a creative career. But that like going to like that stigma feeling of just like, oh, I'm an artist, and like you tell people that, but there's always a kind of a I don't know. I just like, is it like a sticky feeling? I don't know what it is. Like, what is it like? Why does it have to feel so like, okay, like they're judging me, or, you know, like I don't get it, you know?
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, I still, and I need to be better about this, but I feel like to most, or maybe I decide based on the person, but I feel like to most people, if they ask what I do, I don't say like film. You know, maybe it's because the other one pays the bills, or maybe I don't feel established in the film stuff yet. But yeah, I don't know.
Like my mom had a, you know, question. She was like, and like she's told a lot of the family friends like at home, like, you know, what does Rikin do? And she asked me the other day, and she was like, what is Rikin? Like, what do I tell my family friends? And I was like, you should tell them that I'm a hitman for the CIA. And I think we're both getting distracted by these people outside. But
that's
yeah,
funny.
no, I mean, I was just like, yeah, you can just tell them I'm a marketer, and that's the easiest thing to say because it's the easiest to wrap your head around. So,
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it puts you nicely into a bucket, right?
Yeah, you want to you want to fit well into a bucket, so it's not hard to, you know. And I think that also is part of the like, okay, not diving in. But I also feel like diving in, that thing of like, oh, dive, like the director you're talking about, I think that's a little overrated.
Grass is always greener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're on Kepler 186b, where photosynthesis is created red color, and the grass is always redder. Might cut that part out, but
that's a nice little tidbit.
I've been getting into space a lot lately.
Okay.
Like all those Kepler planets, they're very close to Earth-like planets.
Okay.
So yeah, but anyway, going back to that kind of thing. And I guess it's a good transition point for your film, because I think that whole like trying to find your place in the world, I mean, it's extended from our identity crisis we had when we were in high school.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of what your film kind of goes into a little bit, right?
Yeah. I think that's always kind of been there. Is like, you know, even when I was in high school going to college, right? My parents wanted me to be a doctor or to be a lawyer and all that good stuff. And so I studied that, and, you know, I minored in film on the side and kind of did that sneakily, just because, again, yeah. And like, I think that turmoil is there until you know, whatever, break through it.
Right.
And yeah, I do look at people that, you know, did that from the jump, right? At 22, 19, whatever age, and then maybe just were able to fully be in that world in college earlier on, and like not have to be like divided attention. So there is a little bit of envy of that for sure.
With the whole like that thing though, where I find it a little overrated is because I've met so many actors and writers that are coming from all different walks of life.
Yeah.
And if you hit, you hit. That's the kind of thing. And I think like, it's like, oh, I didn't go to NYU. So like, I don't know if I can make a career out of this and blah, blah, blah. Like, and I think that's a little bit.
Nah, it's bullshit.
Yeah. And it is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to kind of realize that everybody's got their own issues and
their own path.
And their own path. And if you can figure out a way to do it, and I mean, look, hitting is hitting. If you hit, you hit. Fine, whatever, right? And like you want to do the best that you can, but you have to figure out a way to eat food, right? At the end of the day. And I just think there's just been like we've romanticized
For sure.
the myth of the starving artist, which I think is a myth at the end of the day. There's so many examples of directors or actors that just made it through sheer, having a lot of money, right? Like, and I mean, we're just a new generation where it's like, okay, I work in tech and I can do this at the same time. So we've never really seen that before. Yeah. So I think that's also where that whole kind of,
for sure,
kind of thing.
And I mean, like, what's my train of thought there? At the end of the day, it comes down to like, I think what motivates me is like, okay, like even if I am doing this on the side right now, when I am in conversations with my DP or with anyone else that actually does do this full time, I don't want them to think or feel like, oh, this guy's casually doing this as a hobby. Like if I'm having a conversation with any of these folks, I want to be absolutely locked in on the way I speak, on the way I communicate my ideas, on the, the technical mastery or like, knowledge on any of these pieces, right? And that comes from, like you've mentioned, like classes, preparation, reading screenplays, doing all of that. And I think the piece that motivates me is, even if I didn't go to NYU or one of these schools, right, is I know the one thing I can control is I can work harder than them. Like even if they like come out of NYU and whatever, or in NYU, not to pick on NYU, great school.
It's easy to pick on them. Yeah, pick on them. Please go. Feel free.
But it's like I know that if when I'm locked in and I'm reading a screenplay every day or every other day or every week or like nonstop, it's on my mind. You almost, once you have that constraint of I can't do this from 8 to 5, well, what about 5 to 10? What about your weekends, right?
Yeah.
And like I think that is a factor that motivates and hopefully creates some hunger that like some of these students potentially don't have.
So on the flip side of that, and I think the corollary to what you're saying is, like, working hard and whenever you can find time to do it. But on the corollary, like there's something to be said, and this is what I've been thinking about lately. It's kind of why I wanted to start doing this podcast and start producing it, was like, if your only interest is story structure, like what is the point of being a storyteller? Like it's just like, I mean, you got to live a life, man. Like even like all the shit that you do at your job, like your tech job. I mean, that's all ripe for inspiration, isn't it? Like, I mean, I think for me lately, I mean, even I think like the last 6 months have just been like, all right, like I've gotten more comfortable with how I'm approaching this thing. So it's like, what else is out there? Like what really drives you to create the art in the first place? But
for sure, I think there's a lot to be said for living life too. I think a lot of people, like straight from undergrad, for example, will go get an MFA right at 22, and I don't think they've lived enough life to to make that matter. Like I think you gotta experience the world, or what are you about? What do you care about? Like your perspective.
Right. Yeah. I think having a point of view is that's what makes shit really good. And I think they have that whole thing of like, oh, writers don't really exist until like after 40 or whatever, like just because of life experience, which makes sense. Okay, so moving into kind of what kind of why be a storyteller for you? Like what is it? What kind of got you to this point? Like what daddy issues?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I think I like and this is less on like maybe the kind of stories and like why storytelling in general, but I think I like generally like the idea of taking something like end to end and then having a physical like thing that lives on forever. That's like very powerful to me. But then when it comes down to the actual medium, because you could do that with art or any like so many other things, right? And I think why film is a good question, and I think for me that comes down to like honestly, I used to like as a kid we traveled a lot. We moved around a lot, and sometimes it was pretty isolating, and you kind of have to like understand and build a life in these new cities. And a lot of times it was filmed at renting movies at the local public library, maybe stuff that I probably shouldn't have at like a young age.
What?
I'm pretty sure I rented Goodwill Hunting's chill, but like Talented Mr. Ripley, all these like pretty like rated R movies for a 12-year-old, 13-year-old to watch, and would just.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like porn.
No. I mean, no.
Yeah?
No. But you can't. I don't know if you can rent that at the library, but
Not that kind of library.
but all that to say, and like I think it like fills this void of like you're almost getting entertained and feeling this sense of belonging with the characters in this movie, with this thing that you watch, like the escapism essentially for that period of time, even if you're feeling lonely or whatever it is. And I think I still have like that as a comfort to this day. But I think as a result of that, it's always kind of been a through line of, wow, it'd be really cool to be like part of this. And I think in later years, it's been like building up, okay, how do you actually make films and build this out? And, and then from there, it's also like what kind of stories you want to tell. And then of course that goes into, my upbringing and the moving around, the mom and dad connections and a lot of the stuff there, which I think a lot of South Asians identify with. But then I think it's constantly changing. It's like evolving into, well, what do you do next? Or what is that like, even if that core piece is a theme in your films, what are the kind of stories that your friends like that aren't Indian would want to see, right? And that whole thing.
What kind of was the movie or the book or the creative thing that really was like, okay, like I love storytelling. Like for you, what's kind of been the biggest impact for you?
Like now or as a kid?
Let's say,
or like, yeah.
Let's say now.
Okay. Now is interesting because I feel like I'm surrounded by a lot of people that are South Asian that are creating like very interesting, very cool things, both in short film and starting to be in features a little bit. So I think that's like, I think just a wave of people that like almost like you could see yourself almost there at that level. So it like creates this healthy like competition and wanting to get better. So I think that's cool. And I mean, I'm trying to think of like some of the OGs. Like I love Mira Nair. I think there's, I mean, not to say it again, but Sean Wang is just, just
Sean Wang is
I mean, not like, I think it's cool that he was able to tell like that kind of very indie coming of age story in like a feature level that got distributed everywhere. It felt like a real breaking of the glass a bit. Obviously there's so much that came before that, but I think all that to say, it feels like it's ripe right now for minority content and minority stories. So that's something I'm very just pumped up by. I think, when I was like Harold and Kumar was the first thing that broke through, right? Like the first, and there's like little pieces that kind of chipping away at that wall or that ceiling. And I think that's kind of slowly helped solidify the realness of it all.
So, okay. So before you, like when you were a kid, was it Harold and Kumar that was like where, but like all right, fuck.
Not
like,
really.
Okay.
I mean,
what was it as a kid?
I mean, as a kid, it was like the stuff that really took you to another place. So stuff like, and I was a little bit nerdy. So like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, the superhero movies that were just starting to come out at the time, Spider-Man, right? Like all the stuff that was on a big scale and told really cool stories. Because there wasn't like, and sometimes I'd like pretend like, what if like a South Asian person was that? And
you didn't think that way as a kid.
I was kind of like
thinking you were. Well, I mean, in a sense, like,
or it was more like putting myself into it. It wasn't like South.
You weren't like, okay, before Spidey goes out, his mom's gonna do a Ganesh puja, and then he's
No,
gonna
it
go
could
out
be as
like some
simple as
fucking capitalist bullshit. Like,
well, initially, like, because like as I think a lot of kids do, it's like, you know, you see the the fame part of it, or the part like, look,
yeah,
actors front and center. So like that's
yeah,
fucking cool, right?
yeah, that's big. Yeah,
And so then, so at the time, it was like I hadn't wrapped my head around directing or like all these nuances of stuff, right?
yeah.
So it was more like, you know, if I was an actor and like,
Okay,
like
yeah,
how
yeah,
sick would
yeah.
that be if I was like Spider-Man?
Yeah.
This seems like, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was more that than it was like, oh man, we need South Asian
Yeah,
representation in
right.
superhero movies.
Which I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Yeah, I was just like, I guess, was it like the spectacle of it? You know, the like, oh, like, what if you were Spidey himself?
Yeah.
Like, and you were like jumping off the building and doing all that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that can definitely light a fuse. I know, like for me, yeah, like I remember reading the Harry Potter books and
Yeah,
like, feeling that I
those
was,
too.
yeah, like just feeling like you were actually there,
Totally.
like you were part of the story itself.
And you create the image in that, so it's not
Yeah.
like, oh, there's like, you know, this white person or whoever that's like that
Yeah.
character. Right?
Which I mean, like, yeah, it's the default, but like, yeah, you're creating. Well, you're your own POV, right? So
Yeah.
it's just your experience. There is no concept of race. It's funny. I don't even know. Maybe it was like when I became super cognizant, probably in high school or something, being like, oh yeah, everybody's white in all these movies. But yeah, I wanted to be Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, you know, but you're right. Like, I think we're living in a cool time where there's a lot of activists and a lot of people have gone before us. And yeah, I think it's cool that we're getting a lot more representation, which is great. But I think it's tapered off a little bit in the last 2 years. You know, as we hit the mid-20s, I feel like it's kind of really been, and I don't want to call it a backslide, because I think people will say like, "Oh, you've backslid on representation." I don't really agree with that, but I think it's getting into more of a you know, like back to basics of story, but like now we're in this new space of like we just happen to have an Indian guy who happens to be Spider-Man.
Yeah,
You know?
right.
Like one of the characters that I've been really have you seen all the Spider-Verse movies?
Yeah, there's two, right? Or
I
more?
think, yeah,
Two.
there's like two, but like I haven't seen the second one, but apparently like the main villain of the second one is this like Hispanic American guy.
Oh, and they have a whole like set that's a scene that's like in India. Like,
Really?
And there's
Oh,
like
that's sick.
There
Indian Spider-Man?
might be an Indian. Yeah, I think there was.
There's like a
So,
zillion Spider-Man.
now that we think about it, it's
pretty
crazy.
funny.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So outside of that, though, I think we talked about how you balanced your kind of work and your creativity. I guess in the future, like, what are some of the? I think you've mentioned to me before your potential projects of the future. Are you looking to create more shorts? Are you trying to turn this short into a feature? Are you trying to just work on something different? Like, what's kind of the web for you?
Yeah, I'm thinking through a lot of things. I mean, I think realistically, probably another short, and I think something a little less coming of age, like just more genre, which will be cool because I think going back to what we were talking about, like spectacle and just cool stories that you used to get behind. I really want this to be like what would like me right now or a younger me enjoy watching, or what my friends who don't know anything about representation or film or any of that. So tinkering through with something there, but also starting to mess around with what would writing a feature look like, and what would that like look like to have a completed screenplay. So I'm playing around with some ideas on that. And going back to our other talk, like the whole thing about like juggling both worlds,
Yeah.
I am tinkering with the idea of potentially like applying for an MFA and like doing
wow.
that again, and
Wow.
just
In filmmaking?
yeah. And
Oh, that's
filmmaking.
great.
Just to see again, what would it be like for 4 years to be fully in this other track
Immersed.
and then have to figure out how to make it work, right?
That's fucking awesome. I think that's great, man. That's like, yeah, you should You should definitely go for that. Where would you want to go for your MFA?
I hate to like.
Oh, you don't want to?
NYU. No. I was saying I'm talking shit on NYU. No.
Fuck NYU. I want to go to NYU, but also fuck NYU. And I think that's how you're gonna get in. I think that's what's gonna be the ticket.
I think honestly,
it's a great MFA program.
Honestly, I really like AFI.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, one.
Ari Oster.
Yeah, it's a 2-year program, and it just feels like very like they call it like it's a conservatory, right? So it's like supposed to really be about like building and working on those skill sets. So and there's NYU and great schools out here too, but messing around with all like a few of those options for sure.
Have you messed around with artificial intelligence in your creative process? In making this movie or whatever?
I'd say the only place I've done it is like brainstorming, like with some, like if you're in a scene and you're stuck and it's like, what would it like, give me 5 options like this. And then you see those and you're like, oh, maybe I take a little piece of that. And then it gets another thing turning and it like kind of helps with the writing. I did actually use it also for a little bit of research, like what were like top musicians at this time, what were kids like, because some of it, but then you forget some of it too. So that also helped me recall. I haven't looked into too much around like AI post-production, like voice stuff or any of that. No.
I mean, I'm using AI for post-production for this
podcast.
Way,
really?
Yeah, I use Descript.
Okay.
And basically it allows me to take a transcript of what we're saying and then I can just kind of cut,
cool.
wherever, and it like transitions really well. It's all like AI, like, using AI, like, pattern recognition and probably where the most likely transition point would be. Like it's pretty helpful, but I'm curious in the sense of like, I watched this, I guess it was like this short film made with Sora like today.
Oh yeah.
But like it wasn't like but it was like this, it was a Sam Altman has a realization short film. And it's like it's hyper, you can tell it's AI, but it's like hyper realistic AI. And like the acting and the animation or whatever is like really good. And I was like watching this and it's basically Sam Altman. Basically, I think the story is like he has a realization that, like he didn't realize AI would take over like this. And then he realized that he became a catalyst for artificial intelligence. And so I don't know, like Sora and like all that stuff, like the quality was super high. And I was like very impressed with take a little camera, a little camcorder situation here
for the memories.
Fuck yeah. We'll have to add it to the Substack or whatever. But I was like, wow, the rendering quality of the AI was like phenomenal. So I was like, oh my god, like.
They're not far off. Yeah, I think the eyes and some of the movements of like I heard hands are hard, but like little details like that. But yeah, I see a world where it starts to blend in really well.
Would you be like, I am a hardcore, because I think there's going to be a split
for sure
between, and I think it's already happening. Obviously, filmmakers are all using AI for everything.
You think so?
Oh, dude, like all the Marvel shit, all that CGI, all that post-production, all that shit. Yeah. I think it's going to be 2 things. I think it's going to be either you're just a digital like creator who just does everything digitally, or you're going to be a bespoke craftsman who like crafts like antique chairs and shit like that. That being said, I think like my main argument to everybody that's like, oh yeah, AI is the way to go for everything is like, well, you don't get improvisation between actors on set, So which direction would you go, or would you be like, all right, I'm going to try to find the middle, or
Yeah, I think again with tech and film, like is the background, right? Like I kind of see it as like film and digital a little bit, right? Like there's directors that like when digital happened in the film world were absolutely against it. Guys that still use film when they can, right? Like Nolan and Tarantino, I think like to. But then like digital brought out a lot of folks that were digital natives and like it gave them accessibility, and something like that top 0.1% made beautiful films and created careers and stuff. So I think for me, it's like it's what I know is is the non AI side, right? Like AI is just on the precipice.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. I feel like I'd be doing myself an injustice if I didn't at least learn and like understand and build out some of the skill sets of it, just so I
Yeah.
can know the potential and know where it can help. You know, I don't know that I'd replace like an actor with like AI. But there are tempting like shortcuts for sure to save some money as
Yeah.
you create films. I think it really helps on. I think it will really help on democratizing
Yeah.
special effects and CGI. Like if you wanted to make a movie set in some crazy sci-fi world
Yeah.
or what have you, before you'd have to get like a CGI guy and pay for a bunch of effects and all that stuff. And now maybe someone is able to build this crazy movie
Yeah.
using that as a background from their mom's basement, right? Like, so I think it's gonna also spur maybe this next generation of creatives that now have access to making something cool.
Yeah, like you didn't, if you were in a country, or like maybe you have a creator in India, know, who now has access to software and tools that like brings him on the same level of a director here.
But
Yeah.
ultimately, I think like it's storytelling and talent is still
Yes,
has to be there.
yeah.
It has that comes first, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thing. We can talk about AI writing. Like I use Claude AI,
Okay.
right? And yeah, I mean, I'm working on my own projects, and I'll be like, all right, like here's the arc of this scene. Can you write the scene for me?
Yeah.
And it writes a scene for me. And
How
I'm
good
like,
is it though?
it's not bad.
Really?
It's not bad. It's getting better, which is kind of like scary, but it's not innovative, if you know what
Yeah.
I mean. Like it doesn't, you can tell it's just redundant. That's my issue with it. And even I think that can be said across the entire spectrum of every AI tool you use, whether it's a visual medium, like, or whether it's sound, or whether it's like writing. And I think writing is a really good litmus test for where we are, where like AI is, beating out humans per se. I mean, they just need so much refinement, so much prompting, so much, and to a certain point, like even for one of these Substack descriptions, like I just recently posted, and I just didn't even use AI at all. I was like, all right, like,
Yeah.
I just wrote the description because I was like, it's not going to give the nuance that I want to give. Like, because there are things that I want to say that it's just not going to, it doesn't know me,
And I think like to use like writing as an example, people that are at least decent screenwriters or like have that base, right, are going to be the ones that are, so you're doing a scene and it's like, what if I had a little bit more subtext underneath this piece, or like, like honestly make this make symbolism around this mean this. Like I feel like you're still gonna, if you know what you're doing as a screenwriter and have a lot of that core foundation, you'll be able to better use the AI, right? So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, like how well you can prompt AI into doing what you want it to do, which is, I mean, like if you don't know how to write if you don't know how to write a conflict on a page, like
then
recognizing what to prompt AI is going to be like very difficult, and then you're going to get something back. Like I was talking to one of my coworkers today, and he was talking about how they have an agency in India that they use for their content marketing.
Yeah, interesting.
And he was like, I mean, like you can look at some of the writing, but you can tell that there's something that's off there, because they're all using. I mean, everybody and their mother uses
For sure.
some kind of tool, but it's like they don't know, because the thinking is like they're thinking in Hindi, and then they have to translate that into English, but it's not like a one-to-one softer cultural translation. So when they prompt it in the way that they're thinking, and then the AI gives back a product, and then they just like copy and paste that.
Right.
And then you get this thing that's like, all right, like it's good, but there's something off about the communication here. you know.
No, for sure, for sure.
Are you are you watching any shows or any movies right now?
What have I been watching? I just saw. I mean, I got to shout out Letterbox because it like always,
Nice.
always reminds me what I'm watching.
Letterbox. Nice.
Yeah, sometimes I forget. I mean, I've been going to Metrograph a lot, and I've been watching a lot of. I've been in this phase of like Japanese and Korean films, and just like, I feel like I always skipped like that art of cinema class, like in college or whenever.
Yeah.
So it's almost like slowly building that up over the years whenever I kind of get into it. So I watched all of Bong Joon-ho's like catalog. So that's been cool.
He's got a new movie coming out, right? That
I think so.
Mickey 17 or whatever with Robert Pattinson.
And that one's, I think, all in English.
Yeah. Well,
Which
I
is
mean, he did
interesting.
Snowpiercer too.
That's true. That's
so
true. He
I
did
think
do that
he's,
a while
but
ago.
like,
Yeah, you're right.
no, yeah, Bong Joon-ho. What a career, man. That's yeah.
And like again, like he very unique perspective, right, and style. So
I was talking to one of my family members, and she was mentioning how she knew somebody that started K-pop in America.
What?
Yeah,
That's
like
kinda wild.
it's like K-pop apparently is it's a manufactured like
I could see that.
art.
Yeah.
So, but it's like there's such a difference between K-pop and Bong Joon-ho like writing, but they're both products of Korea and
sure.
Korean like and Korean art and culture, but like K-pop. And I didn't know. I never really thought about like where K-pop came from, but yeah, apparently like the lady is like she's like the guy who founded Samsung. His daughter, developed K-pop or something like that, which is like.
I mean, I believe that. It feels very like pop cultured or pop culture-y, manufactured. Like I feel like that's how a lot of like those teen bands in the US are made too, right?
Like One Direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Simon Cowell developed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a whole new world out there. Anything you got coming up that you're excited about?
I mean, honestly, it's for me, it feels like a sprint to end of the year to get this movie done, potentially apply for these apps.
Like for the MFA program?
Yeah, because
Okay.
there are a lot of them are due in December.
Yeah.
And then, once all that's done, and then submit the film to like some the film festivals for this next year's cycle. And then probably just sleep for a bit and then start writing again next year, like
I must say that's fucking inspiring that you're going for the MFA. That's fucking bold. Like I gave up on my acting MFA shit like a year ago, and like I haven't really looked back, but like the fact that you're going after it, like that's like getting your education for filmmaking is.
So to talk on that a little bit, I think it goes back to that conversation of like, what would it look like to do it fully? And I think that was the piece of me that's like, maybe I'd just be really inspired. Or you do it for 4 years and you're like, you know what? I actually like it better when I'm not doing it. It like would fill that for me. And I also think there's a part of it where it's like, you could go get that and then like become a creative director or do something like a little bit more aligned to you. Whereas, because I feel like, I'm not gonna say my company name, but like like in your current job,
subscribers, nobody's listening.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It feels so far from like anything I'm actually passionate about.
Yeah,
and it would be cool to like leap in and then you kind of figure it out, right? And it commits you to that path at least for a little bit. I don't think you need it. I don't think I need it. I think it could accelerate some things and maybe you meet some cool people and just kind of have a new chapter for a little bit is where I see it.
I like that. I think you're coming at it from a very grounded perspective. And I think so many kids go into any kind of MFA program with a complete career-minded approach, which was when I was auditioning for the acting MFA programs, like the first time around, it was like my parents were like, oh, you got to go to grad school. You got to do this, do that. the second time around was like, okay, like I want to see if I can do it, you know? And
Yeah.
honestly, I never made it past like the third callback or whatever. I got to third round at
pretty good.
Juilliard, which
That's
I
pretty
was,
fucking good.
yeah, my
Yeah.
Juilliard auditions were like fire, but
Fuck yeah.
I always noticed that my first two auditions, like for MFA programs, would be really strong. And then my energy and like my give a shitness would just like peter out. And I think after I did that Juilliard audition, after I realized like I did like really well and still didn't get it, I think I was like, I don't think this is for me. And I don't know if like they can also tell, like, cause I just,
Nah, it's a shot in the dark. Like,
yeah,
there's so many
it's-
people that like. I think like Spielberg. Or, I don't know. Someone's. There's multiple folks that have gotten rejected and then been fine.
yeah. And I think, but you know, also like with that, you have to know yourself, and it sounds like you know yourself now. And I almost feel like we have this kind of culture in America where we're very, we're very, you know, get this, then get that, get this degree, then you'll have this
Yeah,
career,
yeah.
then that. And it's just like, I don't think clearly doesn't work in the creative fields, but like so many kids
Still treat
keep
it like
doing
that,
it. Like,
yeah.
and you'll be like 22 trying to get your MFA. And yeah, like, okay, I get it for acting. Sure. Like I get that, like 25, cause you know,
Sure.
you like your experiences are your experiences, but for a filmmaker, for like a basically a person running a company,
Yeah.
like that's like 25-year-old filmmaker.
And outside of like
right.
a couple of those otherworldly random few people, like dude,
the
like
light- yeah.
like a high school kid going straight to college, then going straight to MFA. Like all the movies are going to be about like high school and
Yeah.
like college. You know, like
Right.
how much depth
Yeah.
could there be, right?
And like life experience. No, I think it's bonkers to be 25, but you know, then again, it's like, all right, like what life experience have you given? But yeah, I
think it's also like how are you as a learner, right? Like I do like the structure of like the classroom setting, and it kind of
Yeah.
gives me like discipline and deadlines. But I know other
Yeah.
people that absolutely
I
can't
hate
sit
that
still in that,
shit.
right? So then it's
Yeah.
also like, what's the point of going back to that if you know that's not the kind of learning you need, right?
Yeah, I think school would have been probably a very bad idea for me. Like, cause I'm just like, I'll live the fucking world and I'll fucking figure it out. You know?
sure.
I'm never looking at the train tracks or whatever, the road map. I'm always just like,
Yeah.
all right, like, let's just jump in. Well, you have any like travel plans or anything you're excited about coming up on the end of the year? I know you got a lot of like shit going on in terms
Yeah.
of like applications and stuff like that. But
So I came back from London maybe a month ago. So that was chill. But then I'm hesitating because I kind of took like half of it off from work, so I wasn't really separated. I do have a week at the end, like near the end of October before Halloween, where I'm gonna go to LA, take a full week off, and kick it with my sister. And
nice.
my sound designers are out there, so hopefully we just do the final sound mix in person, which would be great. But yeah, mainly that.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I got, as I've said on the previous podcast, I'm going to the F1
yeah,
in Texas. So I'm pretty excited about that.
that's cool.
Been watching it on Netflix.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's see. Can we finish with one last anything else you want to say?
Just free form.
Free format?
No, I'm like, if you got a question.
No, I mean, I think well, what would the next short be that you're going to do?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah, the one that like I have a first draft of that actually was through the Rickshaw program, kind of developing. It's basically, if you've seen Bottle Rocket, it's got elements of that, but it's like two guys who've never robbed a house before, rob a house. One of them happens to be Indian, and they realize that the couple that ends up living there is just sweet, elderly Indian couple, and then the Indian protagonist starts to feel guilty, and it starts to kind of create this tension of what he's doing. And I think I'm still solidifying the genre. Initially, it was going to be this like dark comedy-esque piece that like kind of had a little bit of exaggeration and, maybe a crazy, bloody, like kind of Tarantino kind of ending. But now I'm kind of like researching and digging into like, like father-son relationships in South Asian culture. What does grief look like for like maybe this Indian uncle and auntie for maybe a son that they lost? And so I don't know, maybe I'm just kind of spewing tendencies, but like
I'm really glad to hear this, like, because this is really a place that, in terms of South Asian people, we don't really talk about family history, and I mean we haven't really touched on family trauma.
Yeah.
I guess we have, but we haven't gotten to that point yet, I think. But now it's really good to hear that.
And there could be a place where you do that and it still like blows up in flames, or there's some kind of, I hesitate to say like just this strong generational family trauma drama, like, because that doesn't sound, because I do want to keep some of those elements too that are exciting, but I think you just go where it excites you, right?
Yeah, dude. All right, well, that's a really good place to wrap up. And,
right on.
All right, man. Well, good to talk to you, man.
Yeah, this is great. I got to do this again sometimes.
Hell yeah,
this
dude.
is killer.
All right.